Safety, Infrastructure, and Maritime Transportation calls this oversight hearing to order. Today is June 13th, 2014. The time is 11:34 a.m. The purpose of today's oversight hearing is to get an update on five particular issues. One is an update on the issue of the bridges, regarding the status of all planned and ongoing bridge repair and construction projects, to discuss look at the status of the Garvey bonds, that is the Grant Anticipation Revenue Vehicle bonds for planned roadway projects. The third agenda item will be to get an update on the status of the construction of routed numbered highways on the island. Fourth is to discuss the issue of the subsequent cuts that are made to our highways after they have been constructed, or cuts in general in the highways, and in particular Public Law 32-91, which pertains to responsibilities that contractors have to uphold when making cuts in our highways. And fifth, a general discussion on the status of village road repairs and construction projects, and also to take a look at the flood mitigation projects that is mandated by Public Law 32-53. And the format that I would like to follow is that after each of these topics, we can go ahead and pause briefly, and whatever questions that the panel may have, then we'll go ahead and kind of clarify whatever questions they may have. And then we'll move on to the next topic. And then at the end, we can open it up for general Q&A. I did have on the agenda also an opportunity for public comment in case anybody from the general public would like to air concerns that they may have. Joining us today is Senator Chris Duenas. Thank you, Senator, for joining me. Notice of this oversight hearing was issued to all the senators and the media. The requirements for the 48-hour notice, for the 5-day notice and the 48-hour notice have been satisfied. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and begin the oversight hearing. And we're going to need to be, of course, finished before 2 p.m. Because there'll be another committee coming in to use the room. So with that, Mr. Director, you can go ahead and introduce yourself for the record, and please introduce the staff that you got with you.
Hafa and good morning, Mr. Chairman and Senator Duenas. Very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'd like to introduce our partners in this endeavor. To my far left is Deputy Director Jesse Paligan, and to my immediate left is Mr. Jeff Miller with Parsons Brinkerhoff, one of our primary consultants in the road and bridge projects. To my right is Mr. Schneeborn Jonasson, affectionately known as Snow Bear, who's with the Parsons Transportation Group. And behind me, we have the Acting Administrator of DPW Highways, Mr. Ken Bloss, and another of our consultants with Parsons Brinkerhoff, Nora Camacho. Yes, I think that's it. And of course, I'm Carl Dominguez, the Director of DPW.
Thank you. And also joining us is Senator Frank Uggan. Thank you very much, Senator.
Correction, Jeff Miller, not Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson, the golf clubs. Jeff Wilson. I should remember that, golf clubs. Okay.
Okay, we can proceed now.
There's a Jeff Miller who's also an engineer on Guam that I get him mixed up with. Very, very sorry. Yeah. Anyway, thank you again for having us, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. The last time we had a similar oversight hearing on our roads and bridge projects was in February of 2012. And at that time we had 16 federally funded projects and 1 locally funded project in various stages of construction. And since that hearing, virtually all of them are complete. Okay, so this is appropriate that we do present you, give you an update on what's happening with our bridges and road projects. And what I'd like to do is with the PowerPoint presentation, I'll make the presentation, but I have the staff here or our partners here to answer some technical questions if I'm not able to answer them. So I'll just go ahead and get started then. On the agenda, we have, again, the bridges, Garvey bond status, highway construction, public law 32091, and then the village roads, the local and special appropriations for them. Okay. All right. In this slide, we have our construction highlights. Since the program began roughly in the 2007-2008 timeframe, we've completed 30 projects with a combined cost of $116.5 million. Currently, we have 10 projects worth $43.7 million under construction, 3 of which will be completed in 2014. And then under planning and design, we have 15 projects with a combined total of $122.8 million in constructed cost. Okay, first item on the agenda is bridges. We've just listed the bridges here that are either completed or in various stages of construction. We have the Hagatna Bridge, the Chalansanto-Papa Bridge, the Ilig Bridge, Agfajan Bridge, Bilian Pigua, Tocha and Talafofo, Asan and Aguada, and Arahan. Very quickly, the Hagatna Bridge is substantially complete as of today, Friday the 13th. Also today, Friday the 13th, the contractor on the Hagatna Bridge is moving over to the Chalansanto-Papa Bridge by the Bank of Guam headquarters and is closing that bridge off today. So starting today for the next 8 months, that bridge will be impassable while they are under construction. We ribbon cutted the Ilig Bridge about 4 or 5 weeks ago. The Agfajan Bridge is by Bear Rock in Inarahan is approximately 30% complete. The Bilian Pigua 1-lane bridges in Maleso, we have groundbreaking scheduled for July 2nd. The Tocha and Talafofo bridges were completed many months ago. The Asan and Aguada bridges are, the Asan Bridge is blocked. You can see that it's cordoned off with some traffic control, and the Aguada Bridge is a bridge just a few yards away from the Polaris Point traffic signal intersection. And those are in the early stages of construction. They are both supposed to be completed by November-December timeframe this year. That's one of the 3 projects that you saw on the previous slide that are to be completed in 2014. And the Inarahan Asmisa Bridge, which is a bridge just before you enter Inarahan, we just had the groundbreaking on that, I want to say 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So this generally covers the bridges that have been completed or under construction. And since this is the first topic, Mr. Chairman, did you want to ask some questions at this point in time?
Maybe if you can, I guess I really have no questions about the bridges that have already been completed. Hagatna, Agfajan.
No, Agfajan is not complete.
Oh, that's 30%.
Ilig is finished, yes.
Yeah, Ilig, but I do have a question on that. Tocha and Talafofo, those are completed.
Mm-hmm.
These have just started. Asan and Aguada and Inarahan has just started. I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question. The 2 bridges in Maritzo, maybe if you can go into a little bit more detail. I know that this is something that was identified back since 2005 when the bridges were declared unsafe. And I guess temporary replacement bridges were installed the following, shortly after that. And then around 2008, design work was started on these bridges, and I guess it was at that time it was determined that these bridges were built on private property. And so then maybe if you can explain the issue about right-of-way and Gov Guam title to the properties on those two bridges.
Yes, I believe that both bridges are portions of both bridges have been encroaching onto private property. In the last 12 to 18 months, we identified 3 parcels that we needed to acquire in order to go forward with the project. Now, the 2 existing bridges are not only very old and structurally unsound, but the new bridges that have been designed to replace them are wider. They have slightly wider travel lanes, and they will have shoulders on both sides for pedestrian traffic as well as bicycle traffic. And consequently, we need to acquire property. Now, there's 3 parcels owned by 3 different owners. We purchased one many months ago. We're just about to close the purchase of the second one, but the third one we've attempted to purchase the property from the heirs of the deceased owner for about at least a year now, but we have not been able to. The heirs have been uncooperative, and so we recently asked you if we could go forward with a condemnation bill as required by law, but just in the last 72 hours or so, we've been contacted by an attorney who states that he has been engaged by this heir to open probate on the property. However, because of the behavior of the heir this past year, we still would ask you to consider going forward with condemnation anyway, with condemnation legislation anyway, in the event, well, mainly so that we don't delay the start of the construction anyway. Now, can we proceed with the project without acquiring this last parcel, which, by the way, is only 240 square meters out of 4,800 something square meters on this lot down by Pigua Bridge? And the answer is yes. We can start it. We can start with the Billy Bridge, and we take the time to acquire the other parcel, but we don't want to take a lot of time, because if we do, then we're concerned that the contractor would have a right to file a claim against us for a delay. So we can start the project. The contract was signed by the governor 3 days ago. We just have to have the contractor go through the motions of securing the permitting for it, and give them a notice to proceed, and we can start the project.
Okay. Is there any concerns on the part of DPW in view of the fact that although a bill can be introduced by the legislature to exercise eminent domain to acquire that piece of property that is needed, once the legislature acts on that and assuming that it gives the authorization to exercise that eminent domain, there's still the possibility, of course, that if the property owner disagrees with the taking, that then they still have the recourse to take it to the Superior Court to get it resolved, and that could take it's just hard to say. Once it gets over there, it's hard to say when.
We do have currently 2 appraisals on the property by licensed appraisers, and our counsel says that with condemnation we can proceed to the court, because the property still needs to be probated. but that the process for it isn't lengthy. And I believe that we can acquire the property, and if the property owner wants to challenge the appraisal, that can be done later. In the meantime, we can actually take title to the property so we can proceed with the reconstruction of Pigua Bridge.
Okay. So assuming that everything is in order then with respect to acquiring the right-of-way that is needed, what is the duration, the expected duration for the project from start to finish?
I think we've given the contractor 16 months. I believe we've given the contractor 16 months for this project. A little bit, most of our projects, road projects, are a year, but bridge work is more difficult than your normal road projects.
Okay. Once you begin construction on those two Maritime bridges, what does that do to the flow of traffic in and out of the village of Maritime?
I'll turn this over to Jeff Wilson here. Okay.
Good morning. So, because the existing bridges are narrow,
Do you have a map that maybe would show where this bridge? Oh, okay,
no,
well.
we don't have one of those
All right.
diagrams.
Okay.
Sorry.
Never mind.
and you might imagine.
All right.
So as Carl said, the new bridges
Thank you.
provide not only the safer and more accommodating lanes, but more importantly, the wider shoulders, which are very important to the safety of the road. So because the new structure is much wider, there's the ability to work beside the existing temporary crossings that are there, begin that part of the work and phase it so that the traffic can be still accommodated and the road doesn't need to be closed. I mean, that's generally the plan, and it's always when we have a bit of a wider structure, it does give us the flexibility to safely transition the traffic around it.
Okay, so the bottom line is that for the folks wanting to get from Maritime to Umatic, they don't have to go all the way around the island to get there.
That would
Okay.
be pretty significant out of direction travel.
Yeah, it
Pretty
would.
significant.
Okay. Does anybody have any, senators, do you have any questions?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Senator?
Could you go back to the...
Yeah, well, okay, so I'm finished with the Maritime
Yeah.
bridges,
Yeah.
and so I'll open it up to senators for any other bridges.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, gentlemen. Just a quick question, I mean, kind of incidental, that in fact it was brought up during the radio show this morning, but prior to the initial demolition of the Elig Bridge, there was a boat ramp in that particular adjacent property. Now, with the completion, the contractor did a fantastic job. They expanded the bridge and as well as in length as well as width, but there no longer is a ramp. And that ramp served two primary purposes. One is to provide an opportunity for fishermen and women to obviously access the deep ocean so that they can enjoy their hobby or their lifestyle. The other one was for safety purposes, for access by our water safety rescue personnel, so that if in fact any individual is in need of assistance, that was the nearest ramp other than the one in Agatna or Pagu Bay or the one in Alahan. So now with that restriction, it's created a situation where there really is no access to the waters as quick access or more expedient access to the waters, other than many of our search and rescue personnel from fire department or Coast Guard directing themselves to Inaran to be able to access the beaches nearby. So is there a solution to that situation? Because my understanding of how the federal program works is that if in fact there was a pre-existing access or a pre-existing structure, then the project will not impede that unless obviously concurrence is granted. So what are the plans in terms of possibly establishing a boat ramp in that particular vicinity or somewhere within the general area of the Elig Bridge?
To construct this bridge and to meet EPA requirements, drainage, storm drainage requirements, we had to put in a detention basin where the boat ramp used to exist. So if you drive down there today, you'll see that in the spot where the boat ramp was. Plus, you'll see that that whole side of the road is guardrailed, so that you can't access it anymore. And it's actually gotten quite steep if you look at it. And so that's the reason why we're unable to put the boat ramp where it is. I've asked my real estate people to research who owns the real estate right outside the right-of-way, and I've been told the Archbishop of Guam owns the real estate. So you have that factor. Recently, I'd say about a month ago, GFD Fire Chief Joyce Nicholas called me to discuss the fact that the boat ramp is no longer there, and he told me it was his opinion that the situation past the bridge and into the bay, that there is so much silt built up that it was his opinion that we would possibly have to dredge, and I don't know that personally. I don't know that for a fact. That was his opinion, that we would possibly have to dredge to allow boats to go out into the sea, which would be very pricey, I would think, to do something like that. So he and I discussed the possibility of looking around at an alternate site. We discussed the Talafofo Bay site, and Pagu Bay site. I think those are the two that we discussed. In looking at the other side of the bridge, of the Elig Bridge, where the boat ramp was, the terrain is such now, because we did lengthen the bridge so that more water could pass underneath. We don't feel we can go on that side. And then I have to say, I don't know who owns the property that is boony right now, where we could possibly put an alternate road in and create a boat ramp. I haven't researched it yet, Senator. And but then again, there's this issue about whether the bay has, or the outlet has to be dredged in order for the boats to get out there. So that's where we are today on this issue.
So just based on the responses, I appreciate you looking into it and trying to identify an alternative site, but perhaps a similar situation could be accommodated, similar to the Billy and the Pigua area, where in fact you needed private property and possibly go that route across the waterway over the Elig Bridge. Because like I said, I mean, unless you're able to identify an alternate site within the general vicinity, not necessarily in Elig, but somewhere within that central part of the island, it continues to pose time constraints in saving a life, so to speak. And to me, in addition to providing our fishermen an outlet to be able to go out into the deep ocean, it's the safety component and the timelines associated with someone who is in dire need of a rescue operation, or whatever the case may be. So please keep that on not on the back burner, but as part of the serious considerations in terms of moving forward, because right now, from what I'm hearing, the discussion is ongoing, and I don't need to go beyond that, but if the discussion can continue and find an alternate solution.
Senator, I'll look into it. One of the things that I'm not sure, I do need to talk to the Federal Highway rep, is whether the replacement of the boat ramp does qualify for federal funding. I don't know that for a fact. I'll have to discuss it with her. If it doesn't, then we may have to use local money in order to replace that boat ramp.
I think it would be a challenge, because the government made an alternate decision of, rather than continuing the pre-existing boat ramp, it provided that additional EPA requirement. So if the government, this is my personal opinion, if the government made a different decision in that particular situation in utilizing the same real estate, then I don't know if the federal government will step in. But it's always a consideration, especially when you're talking about an extension of safety and if it's going to be in the same general vicinity. But I appreciate the ongoing dialogue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Senator Duenas, do you have any general questions about bridges?
Not on the bridges.
None. Okay, fine. We can go ahead and move on to the next agenda topic then. Garvey bond status. Now, I had asked that this be the second topic of discussion, because the Garvey bonds actually was going to be the revenue source for the construction of new projects. And so maybe if you can just briefly refresh the memory of the committee here, what is this Garvey bond and approximately how much and where's it at? Because I believe the public law which approved the Garvey bonds was, maybe 2-3 years ago?
2 years. I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Mr.
So
Chairman, yeah.
maybe you can kind of just bring us up to speed then on the Garvey bonds.
Gentlemen, we get so much funding a year from federal highways, and we used to get roughly $18.5 million a year, and then a couple of years ago, Congress cut the allotment, the appropriation to the territories. I think it was a deficit reduction step on their part to do it. And it wasn't sequestration. It was outside of sequestration that they did it. Unfortunately, our share of the cut was something in the order of $3 million, which really hurts when you're getting $18.5 million. A $3 million cut hurts. Anyway, the projects that were intended for the Garvey bond, and by the way, the Garvey bond is a bond whose repayment is a pledge of federal highway dollars. Okay, so that's the type of vehicle that is. Strictly federal highway dollars, and the bond proceeds can only be used for road and bridge projects. So the legislation from 2 years ago, there was two groups. The first group was TGen Phase 1, which is currently under construction. The second one was the improvements to EPOW Road from Marine Drive all the way down to the Hilton, and the third one was Hamburger Road. And then there was a second group. Which included, I believe it was Airport Road and Mechechi Road and some others. What has happened is that the two projects in Group 1, EPOW Road, and
If you can just back up a little bit, the Garvey bond amount that was authorized
was $75 million.
$75 million, which represents a certain percentage of a 5-year projected grant amount. Was that how it worked?
I think we were just asking enough money to do both the Group 1 and Group 2 projects that were listed in the legislation, and of the $75 million, we anticipated spending upwards of $40 million for the Group 1.
Okay.
Group 1 projects.
Okay. So we're looking then through this Garvey bond to be able to obtain about $75 million to fund the construction of identified projects.
Of identified projects, yes.
Okay.
Because it was legislated. So.
Okay. But the bond has not yet been issued.
No.
Because?
A couple of things. One, two of the projects, EPOW Road and Hamburger Road, are not ready to go to construction, mainly due to real estate issues, some difficult and time-consuming real estate issues. The other thing is FHWA, as of today, is reluctant to pledge federal highway dollars to a Garvey because, as of today, the Federal Highway Trust Fund is predicted to go broke in the August and September timeframe this year, unless Congress acts to replenish it. Federal Highways is confident they're going to do it, but because today it hasn't actually been done, they would be reluctant. They would be reluctant to pledge the money to Garvey. So those are the two main reasons, Mr. Chairman.
But probably the larger reason is because of the availability, the availability of the federal funds to pledge against the bond issuance. That's probably the bigger reason.
No, it's not a dollar issue from the federal highway side. It's more that the projects aren't ready. they're months and months away from being ready to proceed.
Okay, but it's being held up right now because we need to acquire private property for right-of-way to meet right-of-way requirements.
That's right.
Something similar to the case of the Piga Bridge in Maritime.
Yes, very similar, but much more complicated. Many more parcels involved in EPOW at EPOW Road and Hamburger Road.
Okay.
Yes. And on the Group 2 side, in that legislation, I've been asked, well, let's go Garvey the Group 2. Let's go Garvey. But the Group 2 is essentially in the same predicament, is that they're not ready to go to construction anyway. They're still in various stages of design.
Now, you indicated that the Tizan Parkway, the one that is underway right now, was to be funded from proceeds to be obtained from the Garvey bond.
That's correct.
Now, since that bond hasn't been issued, where are the funds coming from to pay for that construction?
It comes from what's called the 4-year Guam TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan, budgeting protocol, and it's Federal Highways was able, with our Highways Division, to massage that and to reprogram some of the funding. That in combination with a couple of our bids that came in favorable to DPW, we were able to find the $7.5 million to proceed with Tijan Phase 1.
Okay.
We had some leftover money. I failed to say that. Yes.
You had some lapses from
from
earlier
previous projects. Yes,
okay.
we had some lapses. Yes.
All right. Now, as I understand it, the property that the Phase 1 project is to be built, that is being built on, actually was property that belonged to the Guam Airport Authority, correct?
That's correct.
And so that was purchased from the Guam Airport Authority using federal highway monies. Is that correct?
That's correct. That was eligible for federal highway dollars to purchase that. We're purchasing an easement, a perpetual easement, Senator.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Senator, did you have any questions about the Tizan Highway? Okay. What is the expected completion date of, what is the expected
Phase 1?
For Phase 1, yeah.
On or before March 31st, 2015. And this is I've said this before, this is the first project that we know of at DPW that has an incentive clause for the contractor, where if they finish before, substantially complete the project before March 31st, they get a $2,700 a day bonus, but it caps off to about $200-something thousand. But if they go one day beyond March 31st without justification, it's a $2,700 penalty per day.
Per day.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there was the concern about that the current access through Tizan from Route 8 was going to be shut down by the airport.
Yes, there it is, Central Avenue.
Right.
And then this little spot here is the traffic signal intersection with the mobile McDonald's.
Correct.
So these red lines indicate the road that the airport intends must, by federal law, shut down by December 31st, 2015.
Oh, so it's been pushed out because they were looking at June of 2014.
No, actually, they were looking at December of 2013. That's what we were told. But then they pushed it back to the end of 2015.
Okay, all right. So
the reason why we must have the project finished at the end of March is because the airport authority needs time to prepare for this closure, and so they have. Is that the new fence line?
Yeah, it's a new fence line.
See, this is the new fence line right here that they have to put up. Those sorts of things. So they need some time to do it, and that's why we've targeted March 31st to complete the project.
Okay, so then the shortcut to Route 1 from Route 8 through TISA and will not then be denied through the closing of Central Avenue then?
No, and here's the spot that borders where Cars Plus borders the San Jose supermarket, and then it takes a turn through the grassy field. This spot right here, gentlemen, is the old GPD buildings that were demolished by the airport, and then here's the end of Phase 1, where it'll merge into the existing Sunset Boulevard, excuse me, and then in the future we'll have to complete the project by going into Phase 2.
Okay. All right. Senator Duenas, do you have any questions on that? Okay. All right. So the revenue then that we were anticipating from the Garvey bonds, I guess we'll have a better idea of the status of that revenue source sometime around the end of this fiscal year, or?
I would say at least that, if not, say, the first quarter
Okay.
of 2015.
Okay. So what happens, I mean, we were looking at basically floating this Garvey bond to be able to get money up front from the stream of grants that we were anticipating over a 10-year period, I believe.
Okay, yes.
And so if we don't float this, then we're going to basically have to put a lot of our highway construction on hold. Is that correct?
Can you help me with that? I'll try. He's the money man. He's my money man on the highway projects. Yeah.
So, FHWA is...
And you're...
I'm
and
Joaquin
identify
Blas.
yourself.
I oversee the Division of Highways at Public Works. FHWA has recently granted American Samoa the ability to go direct, instead of a Garvey bond, to go directly to obtain bank loans. And so they're working to try to see if that applies to Guam, and they think it does. So if we were to have a problem with the Garvey bond going out because of that, FHWA thinks that we could go on a project-by-project basis to the bank and instead do a bank loan. And we would have to research to see whether the cost would be more attractive than going out to a Garvey, and that would be the decision that we'd have to make at the time.
Okay, so the bottom line is that there may be an alternative
Yes.
to obtaining
Yes.
the funds,
Mm-hmm.
and our road construction will not come to a
Yes.
screeching halt.
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. All right, I think we've, unless anybody else has questions about the Garvey bonds, and we have an idea now about the status of the projects and the obstacles that have to be overcome, I think we can move on to the next topic, which then takes us to the next topic of the status of the highway construction that's ongoing.
Gentlemen, here's our current road projects. Well, the last one's not a road project, but it is a federally funded project, federal highway funded project. Route 4, Tocha to Epan, is a stretch of road from the Tocha Bridge past Jeff's Pirates Cove to almost the mobile service station in Epan. We've done the curved portion. We've done the base course on the curved portion. Work stopped because we had to do some modification to the design. We're going to restart work a week from Monday, and we should now complete. I think originally we were supposed to complete the project by July. It looks like we'll complete the project in the August to September timeframe.
Of
Okay.
this year.
This year.
Okay.
Yes.
And this particular stretch is the one where we've had several fatalities, fatal traffic accidents.
We've had, I don't know about fatalities, but Mr. Jeff Pleadwell's been complaining about that stretch of road for many, many years, and we've had some injuries for sure. I don't know about fatalities, but
Okay.
yes.
All right. So basically, that project will actually eliminate the sharp curve.
No, the curve stays intact, but it'll be banked. It'll be banked, and also it'll have a whole new friction course surface to make the surface better for driving conditions in wet driving conditions. So it should be a much safer stretch of road after it's done. And in the end, again, it's just how fast are you going to go? If the road is improved, there seems to be a tendency for people to drive faster the better the condition of the road. Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, just yesterday, a resident of Talafofo asked me to leave the potholes on his road alone because it acts is almost the equivalent of a speed bump. Always, complaining about fast drivers through the villages. That's just an aside, Senator.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Route 17.
Oh wait, Senator.
Yes.
I have a question on this one. On the bank, is there going to be a guardrail on that embankment?
I'll turn this over to Snow Bear. I asked him that question a month ago, and I'll let him give you the answer.
No. The slope leaving the shoulder of the road is going to be a 4-to-1 slope, and current design standards dictate that a guardrail would actually cause more harm than the gentle slope will. So with adding the wider lanes and the shoulder and then the gentle slope, it's considered a recoverable area. So if you start drifting off the road, you should be able to slow down and or get back on the road.
So a guardrail might actually ricochet you back into. That makes sense.
Senator, you've driven by the curve recently?
I have, and
it looks pretty steep, right?
Yeah.
That's not the finished product.
Okay.
That's not the finished product. I saw that too, and I thought guardrail myself. But Snow Bear explained that when the road is finished, there'll actually be a gentle slope off that curve.
Yeah, I was actually doing it on my bike, and I was like, this looks like you're really going to take quite a
spill.
And,
Okay.
maybe to add is that when the lane markings come on the road, they will push you down inside the curve. So it appears to be probably about an 8-foot area before you even get to the slope. So right now there are no lane markings that the fog line, the white line on the outside of the curve.
Right.
So as soon as that's in place, it will help you stay inside on the curve and give you even more area to recover if something comes up.
That's excellent explanation. Thank you.
Just learned that myself now.
It seems tricky with that.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Route 17, the Cross Island Road. From Route 5, which is the Naval Magazine Road, all the way to Baza Gardens. We're currently repairing that road. There's two components of that. We're replacing 12 under the road drainage culverts, and we are repairing 40 of the worst spots on that road, where there's depressions and that sort of thing. And I believe the project is to be completed February next year. Okay. It's being done by Nipo Corporation. We broke ground on the Route 25-26 intersection. I think.
Before you leave that, is there going to be resurfacing on that Route 17 project?
No, it's spot repairs,
spot
Senator.
repairs.
Spot
Okay.
repairs, yes.
All right.
Okay. Route 25-26 is the traffic signal intersection on Machechi Road below Laddie Heights, and we just broke ground on that last week.
Okay.
And that project is, I think we've given the contractor but they have a year. They'll start Monday, and they have a year to complete that project. That's a $2.5 million project. When it's done, Senators, the traffic signal lights will work. There'll be all new asphalt at the intersection, and then going up the hill to Laddie Heights, and it'll go to the top of the hill and a little bit further. And down below from the intersection, 300 feet towards Route 1, that'll all be new asphalt as well. We're also creating a new ponding basin at the lower corner where it's a boony area right now to take care of storm water. And there's a retaining wall and some guardrails also that will be going in. There'll be left turn lanes coming down the hill, there'll be a left turn lane to go into Alligator. There'll be a left turn lane to go into PGD or Las Palmas Village.
Okay. All right.
Okay, and of course we've talked about Tijan Parkway, which is by law now called Magahaga Parkway. They're in the early stages of the construction, but from what I've seen so far, Senators, I think we have a really good contractor out there called IMCO. They're really going great guns on that, and I really do hope they finish before March 31st. I'd be happy to pay them a bonus for doing it. This last item, this last bullet point, we just broke ground on this day before yesterday down at the port. And it's the replacement of pipelines down there. The pipelines carry both a couple of different kinds of fuel and water for firefighting, and they're very old, but they were eligible for federal highway funding. It's a joint venture with the Port Authority of Guam. The port has paid for the design and the construction management. We're simply paying for the construction. Okay, and so that's the projects that we have actually going on today. Okay.
And I think that Route 11 pipeline is certainly a good example of what creative thinking, I think, can provide, where really the pipelines can be considered as
transportation related.
Transportation related. It's a highway to be able to transport from your ships that come to deliver the fuel, to transport it over to its holding tank, and then from there transfer it to your fuel trucks,
yes,
who then get on to another highway medium,
yes,
to take it to their distribution points. So I think that was an excellent project in creativity. Okay, great.
We just wanted to point out very quickly some of the defense access road projects. Route 11 is the Port Authority road, Senators.
Okay, can you explain defense access roads and the funding and all that?
Yeah, these are roads that the military intend to use heavily for the buildup. And so they are eligible for the Department of Defense funding. And so, for example, if you look at Route 11, which is the Port Authority road, this was a $16 million project. Most of that went into the road. A little bit of it went into the truck enforcement screening station. And so, so the Department of Defense gave us the money to do it through the federal highways, and the project is completed. Here's another example. The New Agana Bridge and Route 8 project is also funded by the Department of Defense. Now, the Chalan Santo Papa Bridge is funded by federal highways. So that portion that you see on the screen is funded by the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense has given us funding to proceed with the design of the intersection of 1 and 3. And what this is, Senators, is primarily to add a second left turn lane off Route 1 onto Route 3, northbound. Northbound. It's a single left turn lane now that backs up badly during peak hours, and so yeah, and so it would certainly help to add a second left turn lane, but by doing so, we'll have to add a new through lane to go up north. So they've given us the money to proceed with the design. You see Route 3, and they've also given us go-ahead to start the design of the portion of Route 3 past the traffic signal intersection, that Route 3 and Waisengsong Road. You know how it merges down into 2 lanes?
It's the area past Okudu?
Way past Okudu, way past South Finnegajan.
Yeah.
And then you hit that traffic light.
Correct.
And then it, just as you pass the traffic light, then it merges you just have two lanes, one northbound and one southbound, then you go on to McDonald's and that sort of thing. So they've given us the funding to design that, and that design will take that road, widen that road, and improve it from that point all the way up to Potts Junction. Okay, past Starts Golf Course up to Potts Junction.
In all these road expansion projects, are there private properties that need to be acquired to accommodate the expansion?
In the case of Route 3, I don't think we anticipate private property real estate issues with Route 3.
Okay, could you?
Yeah.
I think we did a preliminary research on this particular stretch of road, and there was no issue. But during the design phase, though, the designers will be working with the right-of-way people at DPW to ensure that, or to find out if they're going to run into problems, and then we can, at that point, mitigate for it. Yeah, I think it
It's
is
a big
100.
one.
Yeah,
That is a big
yeah, all the way
right-of-way.
down. So yeah.
Yeah, we have a big right-of-way there.
Okay.
I'm not that familiar with the bridge projects. Can you talk on that some?
Jeff.
Yeah.
These are just some other bridges that have, they didn't make the original list when we went through and did our bridge inspections to identify them for whether or not they had structural deficiencies or functional deficiencies, but because of the buildup and the importance to the road, these will have to wait to the conclusion of the current NEPA process to truly assess which bridges will make it on the list, and then if depending on the final decision document, those bridges will then be identified and then be eligible to go ahead and receive DOD funding. Yeah.
Okay. What was this Route 5 and 12 rehabilitation?
Oh,
We didn't
I
get to
skipped
that.
it.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
skipped that,
I
yeah.
skipped it. Route 5 is the Naval Magazine Road.
Oh, okay.
From
Yeah.
the mobile service station at Apra Heights to the main gate of Naval Magazine. When you go just past the main gate of Naval Magazine, that is now called Route 12, that leads you into Santa Rita Village. The plan is to reconstruct that road all the way from the mobile service station to about 200 or 300 feet past the main gate of Naval Magazine into Route 12. So to rebuild it, a portion of Route 12. We're not going to do Route 12 all the way into the village. So that's slated for FY 2015, which is, of course, October 1st, 2015. And that is a project that whose cost will be split. We anticipate to split 50-50 between Federal Highways and the Department of Defense.
Sure.
So Carl, that's a split with that portion to Naval Mag, or is there a possibility with Federal Highways to continue and just complete it all the way through to the village?
The answer is the program funding is such that we can only go past the main. I suppose I could ask Federal Highways if we get a very favorable bid, in relation to the government's estimate to reconstruct the road. We could always ask Federal Highways if they could stretch the paving a little bit.
Seems
yes.
like it would make sense, yeah. That's a routed road, yeah, all the way?
It's a routed road. It's a routed road, yes.
We should, yeah, thanks, Chairman.
Will that road remain 2-lane, but you're going to put in, I guess it's going to need a turning lane, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Now, is that, I mean, right now, it's been a 2-lane forever with no turning lane, and so if you're going to put in that turning lane, you're going to be expanding that road. So is there going to be any private property that's going to be involved in acquiring?
I'm not familiar with it enough to answer the question directly, but it would be, I know that parts of it won't have the full turning lane. I think it was in select areas, but yeah, I would anticipate that it's very likely that we could encounter right-of-way on that. Just having looked at it myself, I think we've seen that when we tie in driveways and other things like that, that we generally are going to get into the edges quite a bit.
Yeah, because it seems like there's a lot of houses being built along that road,
Yeah,
that route.
yeah, very close to the road.
Based on the amount of right-of-way we have, I think that the designer will do their best to put in a middle lane. There might be some sections that we may not be able to do. I will say this, I remember that the new road will have at least 6-foot shoulders on both sides to accommodate bicyclists and pedestrians. And also, part of the cost will be we have to do some storm drainage improvements in that area as well, and that'll be part of the plan, for sure.
Okay. Well, that's certainly good news. That's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, you missed a very important project there. Huh?
Sorry about
Okay.
that.
What do you estimate has been made available so far to fund these defense access roads starting from Route 11, the Route 1, Route 8 intersection, and Hagåtña Bridge, right? Do you have a quick estimate? Yeah. Well, construction, and there's design.
Yeah, there's
costs.
design too.
Design is not a paltry sum, that's for sure.
I know, Ken, I thought I'd heard 60 million 2.5 years ago or so. I thought I remember hearing the
Now, I don't necessarily want a breakdown, just the total bottom line.
I don't have my calculator.
39.
Yeah, we can email you that
Yeah,
figure,
if
but
we can.
I recall a $60 million figure.
60 million only for Route 3.
Oh, 60 million only for Route 3, a total about 100 million.
Okay. All right. Okay, fine.
Nice chunk
Great.
of change there. So.
Excellent. Okay. So I guess we're...
The last bullet point, Senators, is this road strengthening. The example that was given to me on the road strengthening is the road past Perez Acres and Jigo, connecting Route 1 with Route 15. And that road would be eligible for road strengthening because they anticipate heavy commercial vehicles going from the back road, say Smith Bridge or those construction companies in the back road hauling heavy loads, using that road to go to Route 1 and then on to Finnegagen, well, if that's the final decision. And that road today would not be able to sustain those kinds of loads. It would break up pretty quickly over time. And so if in fact that happens, or anticipated to happen, then we would ask funding to strengthen those roads. And that's the example that comes to my mind.
Okay.
Chalan Luhunya.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right, which I guess then brings us to a lot of money, a lot of federal funds have been invested to construct new roads. And then shortly after we construct them, inevitably, contractors come in to make cuts in the road to connect to the sewer line. Water lines break, water lines run right down the middle of the road. And then, next thing we have is cars are weaving in and out of the traffic to avoid these things. So now the question is, what efforts or what are we doing then to address cuts in the roads after we have constructed these things?
Yes, Public Law 32091, which became enacted last November, I have given our highway encroachment permit staff, they're responsible for enforcement, orientation on this bill, which revised the original law on highway encroachments, And just some bullet points to let you know that we're aware that this particular public law has roadway, highway, road, and streets defined. It now requires that the deposit be retained for 3 months instead of 1 year, unless a contractor or agency fails to properly repair the damage after a 14-day notice from DPW. The contractor or agency must provide a 1-year warranty on paved sections of road, but only a 90-day warranty on unpaved sections of road. There's a $500 fine in the law for failure to secure a permit if repair is not an emergency. There's a definition of insufficient repair for unpaved portions of the roadways. What this covers is degradation of the road from erosion and just wear and tear. That would be the same as if the road never was excavated or worked on. So we're aware of that. I just lost my... We can accept a performance bond from the contractor or agency on single or multiple projects in lieu of a cash deposit, and this can be on the multiple projects can be over a period of time instead of a short period of time, can be over a longer period of time. That the funding or the deposits or the bonds, if the bonds are called, goes into a public rights-of-way account, which can be used for road repairs. We're aware of that. And lastly, one of the major items is that the mayors be informed by the contractor or agency before or after repairs. So we're aware of it, and we are doing it. We are going out after approximately 90 days after the initial inspection is done, and we are returning deposits if after that 90-day inspection the repair seems to be holding up properly.
What was the amount? How do you determine how much the contractor must deposit? So let's say he's going to cut clear across the highway to the other side to connect to a sewer line. Let's say.
It's 5% of the estimated cost of doing that work, or $500, whichever is greater.
Okay.
Whichever is greater.
Now, Public Law 3291, which was, I think, just passed earlier this year, that kind of, from that point forward, but I know that that there's been a lot of cuts that have been made. I mean, you go Route 1, I think I remember I sent you guys some data. I made my own survey as to how many cuts within, a certain stretch. But there's those existing cuts right now. I mean, Route 8 is because I drive that road every day. I'm running out of swerve space there to get around the cuts, and so it seems that a lot of those cuts were cuts that were made to connect to GWA's sewer line infrastructure, basically. What is being done with that? I recall a number of years ago, Federal Highway came in and basically, I guess, directed Gov Guam to get those cuts repaired, or else he'll take it out of federal funds that we would otherwise have used for highway construction. And I think DPW got with Guam Waterworks, and Guam Waterworks put up something like about $5 million to make those repairs. So the question is then, what's being done to address the existing inadequately repaired cuts?
Well, since I've been at DPW for the last 3.5 years, I've really personally been involved in getting our highway encroachment permit staff to crack down on violators. You saw the $500 penalty if they don't obtain a permit to cut the road, to excavate in the road, unless it's an emergency. But there's actually another law that allows us to impose a $5,000 penalty on the first offense and up to $10,000 penalty on the second and subsequent offenses. And so we've actually used it. We've used it, and if we catch someone who didn't get a permit, we'll impose it. And if we catch someone who, not so much catch, but if our inspectors go out and determine that a repair is inadequate, then not only can we keep their deposit, by law, we can still compel the violator to do a proper repair. And I think in this law, I guess I missed the bullet point, that we have the ability to go to Superior Court and get an enforcement action in Superior Court for not complying with our order to repair the road. I think I missed that as a bullet point, but I recall that it's in the law. Yeah,
What sort of discussions have been had with Guam Waterworks? I mean, Guam Waterworks, certainly when a major water line breaks underneath that road, they got to go in there and they got to cut.
Yes. The Guam Waterworks, and we had a meeting with them, I think, almost 2.5 years ago. I told them then, I said, if there is a leak under the road, and if they're aware of a leak, that my position was, or is, that they need to fix that leak right away, because every hour, every day that they don't fix that leak, it undermines the road, and to the point where you could even have a sinkhole. And so I said, I'll consider that emergency repair, but the law is the law, and the law says that you have to come in the next working day and apply for a highway encroachment permit. And so with a couple of exceptions, they've complied with that, and they informed me at the time that in an emergency repair, they'll excavate, they'll repair the line, they'll fill it in, they'll throw cold mix on top of it as a temporary repair, but they actually don't do the permanent repair. The permanent repair is done by a private contractor who comes in afterwards. And one of the things I've tasked my highway encroachment people is to keep an eye on that. What is reasonable is, and I would say 2 weeks, 3 weeks tops is reasonable to go back and repair the road permanently. And from what I've seen, both in the case of GTA and in the case of GWA, those contractors are doing actually a pretty good job. Yeah, the repairs that I've seen are pretty good. I've also seen some pretty decent repairs by private contractors who have done water line connections or sewer line connections. The one of them that really comes to mind is the one in front of National Office Supply in Tamuning on the northbound lane. I think they did an excellent job of repairing that excavation, which was done for a new medical clinic in the back there behind National Office Supply. So we try to stay on top of it. I'm not sure we catch everything, but I think we're doing okay, Senator. Yeah. Now the older cuts, the cuts that go back before my time, go back 5 or 10, 20 years, and there are lots and lots of those. They're quite old. I don't know if I can compel Guam Waterworks to go back and fix those. I wish they would. I don't know whether their budget can sustain it, but there's some pretty bad repairs out there that Guam Waterworks and some contractors have done over the years. Pretty bad.
Yeah, and I think as the years go by, they're going to get worse before they get better.
Yeah.
And so we're really going to need to address that, simply from the standpoint that, if we don't, safety issues will arise because people are going to take a look at how they're going to avoid it, and they're going to be swerving all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly the maintenance costs of the vehicles that operate over that road is going to continue increasing. There's going to be a there's going to be a shortage of shock absorbers on this island if these things don't get addressed. I know that like on Route 8 on the northbound lane, just before you get to the fire station, there was a large hole that was excavated by Guam Water Works to repair a leak. They came back, I guess it was several months ago, to kind of put another layer on it, but you know, it really was not a permanent fix, and so now it's starting to again dip, and so now what we're getting is basically another hole that's just got, you know, nice asphalt over it, but it's still now getting to the point where cars are swerving, you know, staying on the inner lane until they get past it, and then they quickly swerve back into the outer lane. So, you know, to even for a minute think, or even for a minute wonder whether we can get Guam Water Works to go back, or whoever it is, to go back and make those repairs. Those repairs have to be made, and I know it comes down to the question, so who's going to pay for it?
Well, they won't. Guam Water Works itself won't do the repair, not their personnel.
No. But somebody, the funding of
the
those
funding
repairs.
Of it, yes.
So you know, Guam Water Works most likely would put out a contract to make those, to have those repairs made, because it really does not have the crew to be able to, and the equipment to be able to make the permanent fixes. So, but nonetheless, those cuts in the road really need to be repaired properly, because they just get worse before they get better, and that's something we're going to need, that needs to be tackled. In fact, I'm actually surprised the Federal Highway, because I think if I'm correct, the agreement is Federal Highway will provide the federal funds to construct the highway. Gov Guam must then maintain those highways subsequently, and because of that, Gov Guam then has mandated imposing the fuel tax, from which we generate, I think we charge something like 10 cents per gallon, and that's the money that generates probably about $18 million a year.
Yes.
And that's money that's supposed to be used to maintain these roads. So, you know, I think it's been recognized long ago that we have to go back in there, and like I said, I do recall specifically that Federal Highway several years ago came in and said, get it fixed, or
possibly lose the funding.
Possibly lose the funding. They'll shut off the valve until we go back and make whole the investments that have been made.
Yeah.
That's something that our current rep has stated to us before too, and so it's I know it's on her list and up for discussion when she comes here in July. So.
And the thing about it is that I'm sure it's not something that the Federal Highway representative just, you know, happened to dream up one night. I mean, I believe there's a memorandum of understanding that has been entered into between Federal Highway and Gov Guam, and we're just not living up to our part of it, our end of it.
I think that begs the question. I should meet with the Guam Water Works people to do something about this. And for example, this spot in front of the Barragata Fire Station on Route 8 and others.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this: we've been extra sensitive at DPW on the most newly paved roads. For example, 7A East O'Brien Drive, past the pool. There was an excavation about 5 months ago, and they did a temporary repair, but we really chased them down to do the permanent repair, and they did it. And for me, anyway, they did a satisfactory job. Also, up on Route 4, past Island Fresh, towards the Chalampago Church. Since we finished that project, there have been at least 3, maybe 4 excavations, one of them fairly recently, in the past 2 to 3 weeks, and the repairs have only been temporary. So we'll chase down GWA on that as well.
Yeah. I know that I've often heard that, if there's one thing that makes people want to throw up is when they see right after the road has been constructed,
Yes.
and then several weeks later they see cuts being made to it. It's like,
It's pretty disgusting, I think. I
It
think
is.
They look at it with disgust.
It is.
Yes.
Yes.
So.
Okay. So that was one part of the item number 4 on the agenda, and the highway maintenance, and in particular the public law, which now puts certain requirements on the contractors that go out there to do the cutting. The contractors or the in this case,
agency,
really
yeah.
the only agency that does cutting, I think, on the roads out there will be
GWA.
GWA, yeah.
Yes.
Which then now brings us to the village roads. In particular, I know that there were funds that was appropriated, I believe something to the tune of $3 million by Public Law 3253 to address flood mitigation issues. And I believe there was some funds that were appropriated to make village road repairs. Okay. And in particular, I believe it was the Roy Damion Street. I don't know if that money has been appropriated yet. Anyway, go ahead, please.
Yes, Public Law 32-053, which was signed nearly a year, or went into effect nearly a year ago, Senator. It's ongoing. Yes, it was $3.4 million. And then here's the list of items that are in that public law. We have a serious flooding problem on Titano Street in Harmon, and $246,000 was appropriated. We have a contractor that is in the permitting stage to alleviate that. To do what we're going to do there, sir, is we're going to put in the road infiltration chamber, just another way of saying a ponding basin underneath the road. Okay, so we still have to. Again, we're in the permitting phase of that. I don't know if we can start before the rainy season, but that is coming in just in a little bit. So, Lot 4, Block 10 is a residence in Barragata, where we have started the mitigation settlement on that, and it's in progress. Lot 6-1, Block 2, Barragata is a location on Route 8, and $300,000 is earmarked, but we've had 2 separate bids now, and both bids went over $300,000. So we're looking at an alternative, to do that mitigation work. And as of this afternoon, we don't have anything in concrete right now to go forward with that is in that $300,000 price range.
That's for Lot 6-1? Okay.
Okay. Chalanamasu, Senator, is up in Dedido. It is in the Ironwood Estates area there, and it's a dirt road, coral road, and we want to pave about 2,000 feet of it, of a 2-lane road. We have gone through the bidding process, and we're going to do this project just like we did with the Gilbaza Road project, Senator, where our own crew prepares the base of the road, and we use our own coral from the coral pit, and then we simply pay for the asphalt and the striping, and we have awarded the bid. We have a low bid of just under $200,000 to do that. We still need to do some surveying work, and so we're probably maybe 6 to 8 weeks from starting that project. We also have to do permitting there, so we're going to go forward with that project. In GIGO, that $150,000 represents work that the mayor of GIGO is supposed to identify, and he's identified a very serious problem in the Bordallo subdivision, but the only solution to that problem appears to be to acquire a piece of property so we can create a ponding basin. In other words, there's nowhere for the water to go, and so, but to a ponding basin, if we can get the property. The mayor, as I understand it, is attempting to talk with a private property owner in the vicinity to see if we can do a land exchange, a property exchange, and then so we can use that money to actually construct a ponding basin, to excavate it and put a chain link fence around it. So it hasn't been completed. It's still ongoing. Okay. Lot 10, those 2 lots in Barragata. That's very similar to the GIGO situation, where there's a couple of residences in this. I describe it as being a bowl, down in a bowl, and
Is that along Route 10?
Right along Route 10, and the $180,000 was to expand an existing ponding basin there, but we've recently discovered that the property that we want to expand, we thought was government of Guam property, isn't, but is in fact private property. So we've got to look into whether the $180,000 can we can actually acquire the property and create the ponding basin. So that's up in the air as well as of this afternoon. So. And then the 19 villages, Senator, that $2.9 million, we originally 18 of the 19 villages submitted their list of top 5 flooding problems. The 19th was Sinahanya. We inadvertently left Sinahanya out of that bill, and I think just this past week, Senator Tina Muñoz Barnes has a Bill 173 to include Sinahanya, as well as extend the deadline of this funding past July 4th this year. And so the thought was, if we spent this money on these particular projects, we found that, for example, if one village, the top project, would eat up most of their allotment, we would split the $2 million into 19 equal pieces, and that came out to about $132,000. Well, one of the projects we estimated would be, for example, $100,000. So it would eat up so much that we couldn't do the second, third, and fourth project for that particular village. So the thought was to use that money to buy equipment for the villages and stage the equipment north, central, and south, because a lot of the problems with flooding is really just maintenance, clearing ditches and clearing the mouths of rivers and that sort of thing. And the Department of Public Works, our situation with our equipment is limited right now. We can't cover all 19 villages in a short period of time, and so we thought that with the money we could just buy this equipment, stage it, and have it at the disposal of the mayors, so that they could take their personnel, go out to the villages, their village, and clear out the areas that are prone to flooding. So we're in the procurement process at this time, and what do you think? And so we're just waiting for the procurement.
So Public Law 3253 appropriates $3.4 million to address flood mitigation issues.
Yes.
What is the total estimated price tag to address flood mitigation, flooding issues throughout
in the villages?
Island?
In 2010, Senator, the village flood master plan wherein the consultant went out and visited every village mayor and asked them about their major flooding problems. In 2010 dollars, my recollection was 170 million.
Okay. So it's a significant problem then on the island.
Yes, it's significant, yes.
Okay. All right. I think we've exhausted the discussion topics. You've answered the questions that I have. And so if you want to make any closing remarks, you're certainly welcome to.
Well, I started out by saying that when we had our last oversight hearing on our road and bridges projects, we had 16 projects and 16 federally funded projects and 1 locally funded project in various stages of construction, and that's and the dollar value of those projects is very significant. We couldn't have done it without the hard work of Kin's division at the highways, and we certainly couldn't have done it without the hard work of our consultants, Parsons Brinkerhoff, Parsons Transportation Group, and all our designers on Guam that we hire, and our construction managers that we hire. So I want to give them a big thank you for all this work. And although we do have a lot of bridge work going on, particularly in the south, and we have a few roadwork projects at the present time, we're working hard to get other projects started. Hamburger Road and Epau Road are going to take some time, but we're working hard to expedite those. And so I want to thank everybody that is behind me at DPW that are working very hard to make these projects successful. And so I want to thank them, use this forum to thank them.
And I want to also echo the same appreciation. I think DPW as an organization and its partners have done quite well in moving the road construction projects along. And I think that a lot has been accomplished over the years. So
I want to thank you, Senator, for your support. You've been very supportive of us. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the governor for his support. He's directed federal funding to us to buy equipment, to buy asphalt, and road and bridge projects are high on his priority list. When he sees me, almost every time he sees me, he asks me how our projects are going, and he encourages me to get more projects started. So I want to use this forum to thank him as well, and thank you.
Okay. And of course, I guess we're never really fully satisfied, and we should not. And so, while it is nice to see new roads being constructed and expanded, after that is done, then the expectation is that we will maintain it. And I think we are at that phase now where the expectation is that we are able to maintain what we have actually accomplished, what has actually been accomplished. And the fact of the matter is that the funding for that activity, for the post-construction activity, is actually in place. We just got to make sure that it's being used for what it was intended for.
And for that, we look forward to your support.
Great. Yeah. All right. So with that, then, this oversight hearing is hereby adjourned, and I have 1 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.